So this is Libby Simmons. We're starting our lunch chat for the SLPAs. We're going to go through this rather quickly and then leave lots of time for questions. So let me start. We've already talked about our gratitude, and there's a lot to be thankful for. But I know on behalf of Leanne and myself, I want to thank you for the services that you provide to our students. And for you hanging in here with this new process that we've started in the new guidance document. There's a lot to learn and a lot of confusion, but you guys are doing a great job. Today we're going to talk about the form that is new. And
Libby,
yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm not seeing your screen.
You're not seeing my screen. Okay.
No.
All right.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm glad you interrupted. Okay, let me see. Why is it not working? Let me look. Okay, let me try again. I'm sorry, guys. So maybe we can clip this off, Leanne. The end that where I goofed. Okay, so now can you see my screen? Are you seeing my screen now, Leanne?
So sorry. Yes, but I'm seeing your I'm not seeing your PowerPoint. I'm seeing your desktop. Yeah, there's your agenda. Oh, now we're seeing it.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Can you see it?
We've got it.
All right, we'll just start over. So since this is going to be recorded, welcome to our lunch chat. Today, I've wanted to thank you for all your patience as we are going through this new process and for serving our students. We're going to talk about the direct observations of students assigned to the SLPA, how you turn in assignments, how you add to the class notebook, and any other topics that you have. Just a reminder that the purpose of our teams is communication and providing a central place for you to provide have all your information, but also a place for you to store all the things that are required that you need to keep. And so I apologize for any of you that it says class notebook and that it talks about assignments. I'm not at all trying to belittle anybody. It's just this was the platform that would allow you to have your own separate space year to year and add information without it being shared with other people. When we set aside and have this paperwork, it's certainly not to give you more to do and certainly not during COVID. It's just like we don't want to add one more thing to your plate, but there is a purpose to this new form that we developed. And there's a reason for us doing that. Still, your supervisor is ethically responsible for all the students on your caseload. So they have to see those students periodically since they are responsible for them. And ASHA requires that the supervising SLP see your students at least, or they say every 60 days. Well, since we have progress reporting dates that are quarterly, we're just in our guidance document using the progress reporting time. And it kind of makes sense that, that the SLP can see the student and look at your progress report and then, do it all, at the same point or time. Just remember that this form is due at the end of the year. It needs to be turned in with your verification report. And so rather than you having to scramble and look back at dates and the observations and stuff, we're trying to help you go through the year and kind of help keep track of when this information is due on the quarterly time period. When you turn in the verification report at the end of the year, there is a place for you all to check that the direct observations of students assigned to the SLPA form has been attached. And then you attach it. And the way this form works, in the first column, you would put the student's initials. and the grade, and then the comments section could be things like what school it's in, or I was just talking to the supervising SLPs, and it might be, the fact that a student just moved in and you've not had a chance to observe them, or you haven't been able to see them because they've not participated in any of the telepractice sessions. So that's where you would put your comments. And then each 9 weeks, you or your supervisor would indicate the date on which they directly observed that student and the date that they looked at your progress report. And that's kind of protecting everybody. For me, it would be hard as a supervising SLP to remember if I've seen everybody. I mean, I know when I supervise students, I usually saw them I supervised CFYs, but I usually saw them on the same day of the week, and I usually saw the same students. And yet, as the supervising SLP, they are responsible for all your students. Now, let me say this too. That doesn't mean they have to observe a whole session. They just have to put their eyes on the student and see the targets that you're working on and how it's doing. So let's say if you're working on R and they're making productions in some positions of words, you might just want the SLP to briefly see that, so that they can kind of see what's going on, actually see it, so they feel comfortable with the progress report, and they might be able to give you some suggestions for that. You could be going along for the whole year, and maybe it's just a matter of just having a discussion on a different strategy or a different thing to try. And so for the first 9 weeks, which is due next Friday, you would put the date that all the students' names, of course, would go in the first column, the dates that they were observed, and the date that the progress report was reviewed. And you would do the same for the second 9 weeks. Now, as it relates to the deadlines, Leanna and I realize that this is crazy time. And so, if you can't make this exact deadline, until we get used to it and you have time to kind of prepare, don't worry about not making that deadline, but try your best. I am hoping that since many of the students were receiving telesessions, and it was important that your supervisor see your first session, you could count those dates. So you can make sure that you would count those dates. But as you go down the road, you can be aware that there's going to be these observations that are required each quarter or each progress reporting period. And these are the dates for you to remember. We tried to look at what typically would be a progress reporting time. I know some counties differ as to when they started, although this year it was pretty much the same, or when they're going to have their progress reports due. But we added a week after that just to kind of ballpark a due date. But the last date, the 6/1/21, is when your verification report is turned in, and regardless of whether your school year is still going on, and you would have to have this form by then. So just to help you understand, because we're having some difficulty with adding the information, and I understand that, and so I'm going to provide some additional information. The place where you can find this next quote assignment, and again, I apologize that it's called an assignment, but would be on your SLPA team. You would go to assignments, and then you'll see when you look at assignments, you've got a new assignment there. It's called Direct Observation of Students Assigned to the SLPA, and it's got the due date. You probably received that notification in your emails. Once you open that, you'll see that there's directions. It tells you what you need to do and the reason that you have to do it. And then you have two attachments. One is the actual direct observations of students assigned to the SLPA, the actual form. So you can download that form and you have it. You don't have to, go get it out of the guidance document. There it is. The other one is called, and it's under student work, is the first 9 weeks document. Now, the reason that we did this was some of you are having trouble scanning stuff. So this is a Word document, and all you would have to do if you're going to use this one is you would download it, you save it as an attachment, and you turn it in, and we're going to talk about turning it in. If you want to do the first quarter and scan it, that would be wonderful. That would be the most ideal, and you would just turn this form in. Trying to make it as simple for everybody as we're going through this learning curve. So once you have whichever document you're going to turn in, just remember you go back to assignments, you add work, and there's a place to attach it, and then you turn it in. Sometimes people forget to add work, and so they turn it in, but there's nothing turned in. This one was what the supervision plan assignment looked like, but this time it would say your direct observations. So remember, whichever way you want to go, you would add the work and you would turn it in. Then to save it to your online file, this is the cumulative file that you can keep from year to year, you go to your class notebook, and then you click on this little arrow here to open your notebook. And Alicia, I apologize, but this is this is what yours looks like. So you would find your name, which you're only going to see your name. You would find the file that says completed 2020. Then you would see here are the forms. Now see, at the end of the year, when it's crazier than even now, and you're turning in everything, you're going to have all this stuff pretty much done except for the verification report. But you would choose the direct observation of students form, and here it is. You see it's come up here, and then remember to click down in the body of the document. So you have your cursor active, and you click down into the body of the document. Then there's two ways that you can attach this. If you have downloaded the actual form and you are able to scan it, then you would go over here and you would do insert, and then you would insert the file printout. And the reason that you would do the file printout is that it actually will show what it looks like. And otherwise, if you insert the file attachment, it's just going to be a link. So you insert your file printout, and then anything that you've scanned is going to appear in this body of this document. If you're using your camera to take pictures of your documents, then you would insert a picture. And however you've stored that picture, it can be in a file, it can be from your camera, it can be from offline, however you've stored that picture, and you would insert it in the same document. That's it. So you have questions?
Yes, Libby, there was one question
Uh-huh.
From Alicia. It says, is the form editable?
Yes, it's a Word document. So you could, if you wanted, you could type in the, it is, right, Leanne? It would be editable, wouldn't it, or not?
I think it is. It's not a PDF. If we need to make it so it, you can fill in the spaces and turn it into a PDF that's editable, we could do that. Just let me know.
Okay.
And then Danya wanted to know, what's the verification of attendance form?
That is your verification of any of the trainings that you attended. So that's where you could store all your certificates that you get as you go through these trainings. And then because at the end of the year, when you do your verification report, you'll have to list all the 12 hours of professional or continuing education that you accrued during the year. And you'll have all your certificates already there, because you also have to attach those certificates. So it's already there and you don't have to worry about it. So that's your certificates of attendance for your approved, it's got to be speech related, communication related, professional development. Other questions?
I don't see any others.
This session has been approved for by the licensing board for your professional development. So you want to keep a certificate. So if you want a certificate, then you need to complete the survey, and this is the link to that survey. I'll also add it to the chat box in a minute.
I'm getting it.
Oh, okay. And so thank you. I appreciate that. And so
Sure.
There's also that there you would need to put exactly the name you want on the certificate and the address, the email address where you want it sent. I've also asked a couple questions about, you know, what do you think of team, what we're doing? Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any questions? And there's some options there. I don't want to add more work to you. So if this little 9-week document, which is just a Word document that says, yes, I've turned in I've completed my students assigned to the SLP document. And then so that's just like an extra little piece of paper that you have to download, save, and attach. If you would rather go ahead and turn in the form up to this date that has your first 9 weeks information on it, then it's kind of a vote. Which thing would you rather do? And we're going to leave it optional. But we want your feedback. We want to make this as simple for you as possible. And yet we really need to get it going and start using it so that honestly, I promise by the end of the year, you're going to be going, yay, I've got all this done. I don't have to worry about it. So please complete this survey if you want a certificate, and also just so that you can give us some feedback. Are there other questions? Concerns?
I was just gonna, oh, sorry, somebody just asked a question. I was gonna ask one, but I can wait.
Is there somebody asking in the chat? Okay.
Yeah, it says if you don't have a way to scan your papers, can you use your iPhone?
You could take a picture of it, sure, with your iPhone, or then so you could do that. Let me quit sharing my screen so I can see what's going on. Yes, absolutely, you could do that.
I'm sorry, I misread it too. She's just letting people know if you don't have a way to scan, you can use your iPhone to do it, and she's giving the directions there on what to do.
Excellent.
Thank you, Samantha.
And Danya, you had a question?
Yeah, so just maybe I'm the only one that finds it cumbersome to do it, but the indirect direct observation weekly one, is that something that is, I mean, I understand the direct one that we turn in every 9 weeks. That makes a lot of sense to me, but the direct indirect weekly one, that just seems like a lot of kind of extra busy work, because I have my calendar that I'm doing, and I fill that out every month, and I have, all these different things, but then I go through and I try to fill out my weekly direct, indirect paperwork and calculate those hours like every week, and it just seems a little bit overkill.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the feedback. I would think, at least for now, you would have to fill it out. That's a good suggestion for you to put in the there's a suggestion there.
Yeah. Okay.
And we might have to revise the guidance document, but some people don't keep calendars like you do. And so, the important thing is to be able to document that you've been observed. And as far as calculating it, by this point, I would think you would have a general idea of, approximately how much time you need to be observed to get in those hours. So don't worry about calculating it so much if you're close. You know what I'm saying? The whole idea is that we we just want to make sure you're getting the supervision that, not that you necessarily need, because I'm sure you're wonderful, but, just is required.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me too, because for most of the week I'm in the same room with my supervisor.
Right.
I mean, that first week we like indirect supervision, we basically have it for the, so I'm like trying to, I like to follow directions, so I'm trying to do it all right.
Sure.
But I don't, so the direct observation to me is really clear, like, sure, she needs to make sure we document exactly, specifically which one she's seen on which days, but the indirect observation just and doing that, I don't know, to me it's a little bit busy work because I feel like I'm just going back to my calendar and filling in all the extra stuff that, like, oh, I'm doing paperwork, she's in the room, I guess that's indirect observation.
So here's another thing. You might not have to document everything you do every week.
Oh,
In
okay.
in the sense that as long as you are able to show that she saw the 20% of the direct observation and 10% of your indirect, that's the main thing. You don't have to go through every day and say, well, today, and because you're probably ending up with her being in your same room, you're probably at 60, 70%.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're, yeah,
Right, right. So don't
easily,
worry
yeah.
about that. In fact,
Okay.
what I would be more concerned about is to make sure that on those times when she's seeing different kids, or make sure that you do the minimum. Uh, I mean,
Right,
not that I'm saying make sure you document the minimum. I'm sure you're doing more.
right, of course.
But, and so the things that you might want to make a note of would be the times she sees the students she normally doesn't see, or the times you all talk about something different, or and as long as you calculate the 20% direct and the 10% indirect, and you have at least those hours documented, and then you have your backup of your calendar, I wouldn't worry about
Okay.
um, more than that. I wouldn't try
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
I wouldn't try to document every single thing, because you're in a situation where you you would be documenting a lot.
Yeah, I am. So,
Yeah, yes.
okay, no, that makes sense. So once I hit that 10% indirect, um,